All right, welcome back to part 2 of this bridge reglue here on this EKG Italian, very interesting 70s, 80s acoustic electric guitar. Last time what we did was we basically removed the bridge. We sanded off the bottom of the bridge to both get it nice even surface as well as lower the saddle a little bit, lower the action on the guitar. We also then smoothed out the underside, or I guess the top side of the belly of the guitar underneath where the bridge goes, so that we can have a nice good adherence from there forward. See, we have no more gaps here anywhere on the edge of the bridge. It's a nice clean joint all the way across. And the same goes on the other side of the bridge as well. There is a couple of small areas that I need to clean up the glue a little bit, but other than that, it is pretty much good to go. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and get this clamp off of here. And I'll go ahead and remove this bridge caul. Put that back over here. And now we can see that this bridge is nice and firmly attached to where it needs to be. I did also get, I put some tape on the underside of this to prevent glue from going through. So I do want to make sure that I remove that. I know there are two pieces in there, so I'm going to go ahead and get the other one as well. There it is. Doesn't look like the glue really got that far. And in fact, I may have gotten very, very lucky here. Let's see if I can get these bridge pins out. It looks like I can. So sometimes when gluing these, what winds up happening is these get stuck in there because of the glue, and that's okay. We have to re-drill the holes out. But it doesn't look like that was an issue this time, and I was able to go ahead and retrieve that one. Let's hope for the same here. Yep, looks good. Under normal circumstances, this is also where I would be checking all of the other holes to make sure that there's not glue that's seeped down into them, and that those holes are clear. I can tell looking down in those holes here that they are nice and clean. So there's really nothing for me to do with regards to making sure that those are open and ready for bridge pins. Now this customer was recommended a few other services that they were not able to afford at the time of this guitar coming into the shop. That's totally fine. We can do these things in increments. But one thing, well, two things really that I very strongly recommended to the customer was to get a new saddle and a new nut made. I'm not going to use the same saddle that came out of the guitar, because a saddle should never ever have ridges cut into it like this. That is not a good idea. It causes buzzing. It reduces the amount of tone transfer that can occur. Now this is a bone saddle, and I will give this back to the customer, but this is not ideal. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put a plastic one in its place as a temporary hold. This will serve two purposes. One, it'll get the guitar working and sounding pretty good. But additionally, if I get the height exactly right on it, when the customer comes back to get a new bone saddle made, it will serve as a cutting guide to make sure that I get that saddle at the exact right height without too much effort on my part. When looking for a new saddle, one thing you always want to check for is a nice snug fit. So I have this plastic, generic saddle that will work well for this. It's got plenty of meat, which allows me to shave down the height if I need to. But also, it goes in and it stays pretty much where it is, unless I exert a decent amount of energy on it. The only problem is it is very slightly too long. I'll make a quick mark where it needs to be cut. And then it's time to get this cut down. Pretty easy. Just going to round the edges. And let's go see if that fits. Alright, so I've modified it here. I've got it all ready to go in. Push pretty firmly on here. And that'll work. That's a nice snug fit. When I got both ends in here now, I wouldn't really be able to pull this out by hand. I'm going to need to use a tool to do that. Nevertheless, it's a good snug fit. This is a compensated saddle, so it's a little bit better than your most basic saddle blanks, which look a little something like this, by the way. There's no compensation on them, but they work in a pinch. They're not ideal, but they do work. This is a little bit better than that, so that's good for this customer. Next thing to do here is get some strings on it, so we can see where the action is, get that adjusted, and see what else we need to do. Alright, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to start with just the low E and the high E. And that's going to give me a pretty good rough estimate of where my saddle needs to be. Alright, I'm already looking at the bass side here, and I would say that it's a fairly low action as it stands right now. Actually, maybe too low. That nut is definitely too low. So we may need to bump this up just a little bit on the bass side for sure. Let's take a look at the treble side as well and see where that gets us. All right. I don't need this to be up to pitch just yet. I'm mostly just looking for a straight line that this string is providing. I'm checking the nut action by fretting on the 3rd fret like that, and then pushing down the string between the 3rd fret and the nut. And what I want to see is just a little bit of play in the string where this string is not, this section of the string is not already touching this 1st fret. As long as the string is able to go down to touch, in other words, that there is a gap between the 1st fret and the string itself, this should play okay without buzzing in that 1st position. On the treble side, I have that already. On the bass side, we are already basically fretted out. So that's a bit of a problem. This saddle on the bass side for sure needs to come up. On the treble side, not quite as badly, but does need to come up a little bit as well. First thing I'm going to do, so that these strings don't go flying everywhere, what I'm going to do is put a capo That little adjustment will allow me to take the strings off here and not have to worry about them going away. Okay, so I've got my little piece here, and all I'm doing is I'm using just a little hooking tool to make sure that it sits down in that slot just right, all the way from one end to the other. Now I'm going to go ahead and reinsert my saddle, and we're going to put the strings back on and see where that gets us. And so now I'm going to look again. The action on the bass side is way, way better, and so is the action on the treble side. So that's all we need to do as far as the saddle is concerned. The saddle is done. Any adjustments that you make to the saddle are going to affect the nut. In fact, when you're doing a setup, the order of operations is to adjust the neck, then the saddle, then the nut. Thank you so much for watching Gabriel's Guitars. We greatly appreciate all of your comments, your shares, your likes. Please make sure to subscribe and hit that notification bell down below so you can be notified of any new videos. Thank you so much again, and have a great day.